Good day
And
and
howdy. And howdy.
and howdy. Welcome to the next episode of Just
One
One Thing.
thing.
Just One Thing is the podcast of Mindful Living Today, and you can also find us on Facebook at
Mindful
Mindful
Li-
Couple,
Yes, the mindful couple.
and our group is Mindful Living Today with Lisa and Brad.
Yes.
And we're also on Instagram.
Yeah, you
at
remembered?
The Mindful Couple.
Yes.
So we'd love to have you on any of our platforms. Today we are going to revisit affirmations.
Yes.
And because I've had some positive experience with affirmations over the last month or two, and although Lisa has a long history with affirmations, it's only recently that I've really embraced them. Although when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, I've actually been using affirmations for a long time. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But before we go into that, I just wanted to say we are recording on new recording equipment today, and
It's very exciting.
audio and video. So
We have a
we'll
new
see
background.
how it all turns
Yes,
out. And
yes.
hope you like it. So comment if you like this or not. So affirmations. Let's go back and just sort of revisit what an affirmation is. If you could just sort of describe for our audience and our friends what an affirmation actually is.
An affirmation is a statement that speaks in the present. So it's I am generally is the best way to start one. I am something. It is best to avoid not the word not in your affirmation.
Yeah, you don't want opposites.
You don't want opposites.
I learned this from Jimmy Johnson, the coach,
Okay.
when he was the coach of the Cowboys. He said, "Don't tell people what
Not
not
to do, right.
Tell them what to do, because if you say don't fumble, that's all he's thinking
All
about.
you're
He's
thinking of, don't
probably gonna
fumble, don't
He
fumble,
said-
right.
Instead, you say hold on to the ball.
Right. So an affirmation, that's a great example of how to create a good affirmation. It should be something that is positive. It should have be in the present, so not words with ing.
Okay.
So not I am making, I am getting to, I am
okay.
going to be.
Gotcha.
You are, I am, it's right now. The affirmation is in this moment. I am happy. I am healthy. I am
Well,
loved.
that's funny you said those, because those are part of my little mantra that I
Exactly.
set for my whole working life.
Yes,
So, okay.
yes, those are the top best ones to use, and they can be used for everything from overcoming depression to changing jobs to being courageous about something that's coming up. I mean, you can use an affirmation for just about anything that you feel like. I would say anything you have a negative message in your mind, that's a perfect place for an affirmation.
Yes, and those are the sort of the areas where I've sort of had a breakthrough over the
Yes.
last several months. Earlier in the year, right around New Year's, instead of picking a New Year's resolution, I decided I would have a word for the year, a theme.
Right. Yes.
And my word was going to be flow, because I wanted to be more flexible and flow with different opportunities and things that came up, and be less tied to my routines during the day.
And you have been amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you, because only you would be able to tell. Well, actually, I can tell too. So when something comes up, if you suggest something, instead of saying, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm supposed to do this or supposed to do that," it's in my routine. I'm saying, I'll stop and I'll think, which that pause that
Right,
my
right,
mindfulness
that
practice
magical
allows me
pause.
to do, and I will use some affirmation like, "I easily adapt and flow with the changing opportunities that
Right, that
arise
arise.
before me." And I tend to vary what that particular affirmation is, but it has to do with flexibility, ease of change,
Right.
making a conscious choice of what I want to do. And I know for me, whether it's deciding to go out for lunch when I already have my lunch made,
Right,
or it's going
right.
down to the boat when I'm already dressed to go to the gym,
Right.
you know, whatever it is, I've been very good at actually just stopping. What do I really want to do? What's best for me in the long term?
Right.
And say, okay, let me go change my clothes and let's go to the boat.
Right.
Or I'll just run later. Let's go do this, play this game right now.
Yep.
And it's just the affirmation, I think, that's sort of taken away that, because I could do some of those changes in the past,
Yes.
but it was difficult.
Yes,
And I felt
yes.
torn. And there was a certain reluctance there, a certain reticence that you could pick up.
Oh, yes.
Sort of in my body language and even in my voice when I was
Right.
talking about what I was doing. So it kind of took away the enthusiasm for you.
Right.
Because you could tell I wasn't doing it naturally. But the affirmations, for some reason, have really worked this time, and it's allowed me to be flexible and flow.
Yes.
Just as I had intended.
Well, I think that to me, the thing that's been most impressive that you have talked about using affirmations is your morning routine, and your struggle with getting up in the morning, feeling positive, getting out of bed.
Well, that's a different affirmation I use for that.
Yeah, well, of course,
Okay.
they're all different affirmations, but I think that's the one to me that you have expressed
Yes.
that has had a profound impact on your ability to face the day in a different
And
way.
I have kind of standardized that one, and I will tell you what it is because I think I've mentioned in the past that I've always had a trouble getting up in the morning. I tend to wake up early. Sometimes I can
Right,
snooze,
right.
whatever, but I tend to wake up with just a generalized, almost panic,
Right,
anxiety.
right.
And then when I decide to get out of bed, it's like I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to face anything. I don't want
Right.
to do anything.
Life's too hard to get out of bed.
And so I've adapted this affirmation
Right.
that just says, I confidently and joyfully embrace every challenge that comes my way.
I love that.
And I basically just say those words.
Right.
And like magic, it kind of just makes the anxiety just kind of
Right.
flow away, and all of those challenges that were causing me some difficulty, whether
Right.
it was sitting down to get some work done, whether it was making a phone call where I knew I was going to have some challenging back and forth.
Right.
I'm just able to just like, well, I'll just
Face
go
it in
do
a
that.
different way,
And I
yes.
just and I think the key thing was confidently
Right.
and joyfully. Those are
Right,
the two
right,
adjectives
right.
that really made it not just I can face all the challenges that
Right.
face me, but how do I go about it?
Right.
Because I've always been able to deal with those challenges. It's
Right.
just that I'm having to deal with the anxiety
Right.
and all those kinds of things that are tied to it. And it's those two words, confidently and
And
joyfully,
joyfully.
that seem to have just changed my ability to deal with those challenges in a joyful and confident way.
Yes.
The words actually work.
Right, right.
And when I was doing a little, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I think also, just so we don't make this sound like all you do is, add a little flavor to the water and it tastes good, you've been doing a lot of work, I would say, since COVID.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I think the fact that you've put in a lot of hours towards developing this habit of implementing mindfulness affirmations, any of this kind of stuff, the more you do it,
Well,
it builds on itself.
It all is right now. It's sort of bearing fruit on fertile ground.
Exactly.
Things that I have done, whether it's years of meditation, it's years of self-hypnosis.
Right.
It's really understanding what I'm feeling
Right.
at any given time and what's sort of at the root of my anxiety.
Right.
All of a sudden, a lot of these things, all of a sudden, I've got seedlings everywhere.
Right, right.
And all of a sudden, the things that I've been working on sort of they're bearing fruit.
Right,
And
right.
it's really, the last 6 months of my life have probably
Very
been
big, very big.
the best they've ever been in
Yes,
just terms of
yes.
overall well-being.
Yes,
and
I
able
would
to
agree.
just sort of deal with the challenges of life.
Right, right.
And it's really been amazing. And I just, I kind of poo-pooed and thought
Well,
that
yeah.
affirmations were just woo-woo. But now when I'm thinking about it, I think there's a lot to be said about the linkage or the similarity between affirmations and things like self-hypnosis.
Okay, yes.
Where you're giving yourself a post-hypnotic suggestion.
Right.
It's the words, they have power
Yes,
in your
they do,
consciousness.
absolutely.
Whether they're negative words like, oh my God, I'm so stupid.
Right.
That sort of has an impact on how you view yourself.
Yes.
These kinds of things that you repeat in situations when they arise has a very similar effect.
Oh, sure.
If you feel confident and joyful, like magic,
Things are different.
If you do this over and
Right.
over and over and you practice and you really try to embrace that feeling and make it manifest,
Right.
I'm surprised to say
It really works.
It really works.
Yes.
I'm going to try to make it more and more of my life.
Right.
As time goes by, I'm going to try to really solidify what I'm doing now in terms of my morning routine,
Right.
dealing with challenges, being flexible, probably for the rest of the year. But I'm going to try it in other areas
Right.
as well.
Well, and I think you've really zoned in on something that is particularly key to affirmations is being very, very specific in terms of the outcome you want.
Right.
What is the place you want to be? How is it that you would like to see yourself differently or navigate the experience in a way that would make life better, happier, easier, whatever. And I think what we both know is that when you first try it, it feels
silly.
It feels ridiculous.
But this most recent one, in terms of dealing with challenges, the adjectives, confidently and joyfully.
Right.
I mean, within the first week, I could
yes.
the minute I uttered it, I could feel
it unlocked
I could
something.
feel a
Yes.
difference. It
yes.
was really wild.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
well,
this sounds like black magic.
No,
but it really
no.
worked.
Well, again, I think because you have established this pattern of understanding how your mind works, you understand what your feelings are. So you've got this, like you say, this fertile ground that now it doesn't take so much. I often liken it to if you go to get your hair cut or you have a massage on a regular basis, or acupuncture or something where you go somewhere on a regular basis. For me, like for a massage, all I have to do is know that I'm going.
Right.
On the way, I already feel calmer.
Well, and I've done 20 years of acupuncture to deal with anxiety, depression, and once I have the appointment, like the day before, all of a sudden
Everything feels better.
I start feeling better before I even go. Not that I don't feel even better
Right.
after I have the treatment, but I start getting improvement, just
Right.
anticipating
Right.
this. And you know, a lot that made me think that I was also, when I was thinking about self-hypnosis, there's also a lot to be said for a placebo effect.
Oh, sure.
You know, just an expectation of something
Right.
that's going to happen, and it has a tremendously powerful effect on both your physiology and your psychology.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, part of that is your body now knows and your mind now knows, oh, it's telling me a message that
Right.
Brad is telling me a message that Brad wants me to pay attention to.
Uh-huh.
And so I better pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a very obvious message versus some of the more subliminal old messages that kind of replay over and over in your head. It allows you to override that.
And I was going to say, I mentioned early on, for most of my working life, for 30, actually the whole time I worked for the federal government, every day I would say, almost in a mantra-like way, meditating, I'm happy,
Okay.
I'm relaxed, I'm healthy,
Okay.
I'm energized.
Okay.
And those are sort of the
Right.
descriptions of how I wanted to deal with my day. And I
Right.
would just sort of close my eyes and I would repeat those things for 15 to 20 minutes every morning. And the days that I didn't do it, I felt a little
felt
different.
right.
And I know that it's in a self-hypnosis kind of a way.
Right.
It did have an effect.
Right.
But I think it's those kinds of things and doing that for many, many years that really made the most recent
Right.
embrace of those kinds of affirmations much, much more powerful.
Right.
And those past descriptions were not quite as specific as
Right.
the ones that I
Yes,
just began
yes,
to use in the last
yes.
6 months. So
Yes.
although I had practice with affirmations, they weren't quite the same. They weren't quite
Right.
as specific.
Right.
And I was preparing and making the ground a little more fertile, I think, with
Right.
all of that
Right.
practice. But they weren't quite right, I
Exactly.
think, in terms of the
Yes.
effectiveness that
yes.
they would have.
Yes. Yep. I agree. Yeah, and I've used affirmations for, oh my gosh, anxiety, for physical, physical, my physical well-being.
Sure.
In particular, I have used affirmations for, with surprising positive effects. So I know for a lot of people, and like you said, it sounds like, ooh.
It does.
It does. Like, how can this
And
possibly?
there is science behind it. I think some of the science may be arguable, but I think there is proof in the pudding.
Well,
when
but
you
I think
try
the
it.
other thing to look at is anybody that says this is total hooey, you're not recognizing the fact that you are telling yourself stuff all the time,
Well, you
every
are,
day,
yeah.
anyway.
You're telling that I can't trust that person. I can't trust myself.
I'm not good
I'm
at
lazy.
this.
I'm not
Right,
good enough.
right,
I'll never
right.
be able to do this or that. Yeah.
Right,
And
so
you're telling yourself those things anyhow.
Exactly.
And your subconscious is believing
Believing that,
So why not
right.
flip it around? At least try to do something more positive, happier, more joyful, more confident.
Right.
Whatever.
Why not
Yeah.
use those same words and that same thing to play something positive in your head instead of put something negative?
And like anything, we always talk about the more you practice, the more results
oh,
you get.
yes,
And the
yes.
first thing to do is just remember to do it, and remind you, then have an intent
Right.
that I'm going to tell myself something positive about something that
Something.
I'm going to do over the course of a day.
Yes, and you started with the one thing. So as long as you've started on that one thing,
started
you
slipping into just
you
one
just
thing.
kind of slipped into one thing there. But what brings me to making the point of one thing is pick one.
Oh,
So
good.
so don't try to fix all of your things all at one time. Like if you're going to fix maybe your mindset about getting out of bed in the morning, then that's it. That's the affirmation that you use for 3 weeks without putting another affirmation in there. And you can also say that, for example, that would be something that you could say other times during the day, even though for you it's specific to being able to get out of the
But
bed
stick with
in
the
a
single
positive
affirmation,
thing.
yeah.
You can say it other times besides getting out of bed, because that will create, again, that fertile ground over the course of the day, and have an impact of the next morning. So for me, the one thing is pick one thing that you would like to be different.
Right.
Like to have a different attitude about, like to feel differently about, and then be very specific in terms of what it is that you want to be different. Do you want to be joyful? Do you want to be calm? Do you want to be relaxed? Do you want to be open-minded?
Right.
What is that one thing that feels like the most
And
authentic?
I know this kind of stopping, reminding yourself is not easy for most people.
Oh gosh, no, it's
So my
hard.
just one thing is pick some kind of simple affirmation and then use your phone or some
Yes,
other app
with a reminder.
and set a reminder for like once an hour, once every other hour, twice a day, whatever you
Right,
want to
right.
choose. But have that reminder
Pop up.
and then
Yes.
repeat that affirmation.
Yes.
Because that's going to help you
Yes.
remember. And it's the repetition that I think is
Oh,
key.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And another thing you can do is write it on a piece of paper, stick it to your,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
something that you
Great
put it
idea.
on the front of your computer, put it on your mirror in the morning, something that you when you flap down on your sun visor
Oh,
in your
good idea.
car.
Yeah.
You know, those are all places that you can put this affirmation so that you see it over and over and over again and have that constant reminder.
Awesome. Those are some good things. I'm glad we revisited affirmations.
It's such an important
I'm happy
topic.
to be able to share that
It
I don't
really
think it's
worked
quite
for you.
as hooey as I thought before. It worked for me so far this year, and I hope it keeps going. So until
Yes.
next time,
This has
has
been Just One Thing.